Of all the things you can make smart in your smart home, having a smart garage door can make a big difference. Because when you leave the home and you're not sure if you remember to close the garage door, you can always check on the status that way. You can also open or close the garage door in 1,000,001 different new ways, like talking to my watch when I'm walking back with my kids from the park. Not to mention, you can run automations based on the garage door opening or closing and just get the peace of mind of knowing when you turn on your good night scene at night, it makes sure the garage door isn't left open. Now, last year, we really needed to get a new garage door in our home, and talking to our installer, the only option with smart home integrations at the time they offered was a LiftMaster myQ garage door opener. Now, side note, if you're in the market for a new garage door, get a belt drive one if you can. They're much quieter. But not long after we got this myQ smart garage door, they closed down their API, which meant I couldn't integrate it with Apple Home, and my smart garage door became a lot less smart thanks to some dumb decisions by management over at myQ. So can this Tailwind iQ3 module make my lockdown, silly garage door much more useful? And could it take your old garage door and bring it into the 21st century with some smart features? I'm Eric Welander. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, we talk all about Apple and smart home tech. So if you're into those things, consider subscribing. And speaking of subscribing, I bought this product myself thanks to your support of this channel. So over the years of reviewing smart home tech on YouTube, I've seen a bunch of different garage door adapters, and there's really two key pieces of every single solution. The first is something to talk to your garage door motor and tell it to open or close the door. And then there's also some kind of a sensor to tell this module whether the garage door is currently open or closed. Now, some of these modules, including the Tailwind, can hardwire into your garage door opener, and that can be a great way to integrate, especially with older garage door openers. But my modern myQ system is super locked down, and they don't let you have those kinds of hardwired unofficial controllers. But they do work with lots of different wireless openers over radio frequencies, and you can pair those because they have to support those in cars and other options. So for us, myQ and other smart garage door owners, Tailwind has made this little opener that then wires into their regular control module, the iQ3, and sends that wireless signal to your garage door motor. And just be sure to check this option at checkout, and Tailwind will include the wireless RF opener in your kit. And that gets to the question of what to buy, because with many smart home products, you just click the link in my description and get whatever particular single product this is. But with smart garage door openers, there's more of a question of you have to go through and decide whether you have a J-track mounted sensor or a universal mount sensor. I went with the J-track option, which seems to be pretty common in North America. And there's also the question of how many garage doors you actually want to control with this. A single iQ3 unit can control up to 3 garage doors. Now, Tailwind also tries to get you to buy this little Bluetooth puck at checkout, which gives you the option, as they advertise it, to when you drive your car close to the garage door or drive it away from your home, the garage door will automatically close or open. And this sounds really cool in practice, and we'll talk about my experience using this as well in just a minute. So the first step of installation, of course, is to ensure you have good Wi-Fi signal in your garage. If not, that's a whole topic for another video of how do you get good Wi-Fi signal, especially in places just outside your home. And then once that's taken care of, installation is pretty straightforward. It's going to vary a lot depending on your garage door and details. And Tailwind does a pretty good job walking you through the different steps in the app. But I will say, I think because there are so many different options of garage doors, there were a few steps there where I just kind of needed to keep my brain on and think about what it was asking me to do and how that actually fit with what I needed to do in my garage. So it's not one of those tutorials where you can just clearly follow all the steps they give you blindly and then it will somehow work. You kind of just need to be thinking about it as you're doing it, but it's pretty simple overall. You're just installing this module that you're potentially wiring or connecting somehow to your garage door, as well as connecting to the sensor that's on your door. Now, mounting the sensor on the J-Track was very easy. You just use a wrench and then optional adhesive or screws to put the other part of the sensor on your actual door. I chose the adhesive route. And for connecting that to the module that goes on your wall, Tailwind supplies all the electrical tape and wire nuts you would need, and this is very simple wiring, which is very clearly guided in the tutorials. So if you're new to wiring things together, there's no soldering required at all here, and it's definitely very straightforward. I wouldn't be intimidated by that at all if I were you. And it doesn't require, at least in any case that I've thought of with a garage door, shutting off the circuit breaker for your garage door. You will need to disconnect your motor from power at one point, but that's the extent of having to deal with your home's electrical system. In fact, if I were renting a home, depending on the details of how this was installed, I would still consider this something I could install, but just depends on the details of your garage door. Now, once you have the module wired to the sensor, you need to connect the module to your garage door. Now, in my case, as I mentioned, it's connecting this extra RF controller for garage doors like mine with myQ. And while they recommend using the yellow Learn button on your garage door, I have an app-controlled myQ garage door opener that then I went into the app to trigger the pairing process with a new opener. And I told it I was using one of the Chamberlain ones, and it still just worked. And I had to make up some answers in the myQ app, and the setup prompts in the end didn't end perfectly with a success for me, but I got the controller paired and it's been working perfectly for about a month now. So now my smart home can talk to the iQ3, which then talks to the garage door opener. Of course, to do that, I also needed to add this garage door to Apple Home, which is pretty straightforward. One of the interesting details is that they don't actually ship this device with a HomeKit code printed anywhere on the box. The number for the pairing is in the app. There's nothing really inherently less secure or problematic about this. This is a completely standard way you can integrate with HomeKit. It's just not quite as convenient for you as being able to scan a QR code. But one of the things that I said we'd talk about is this little transmitter that's in my car that's supposed to make this garage door open automatically when I just drive up to it. So as I pull away from my house, it's supposed to automatically close the garage door. When you set it up, you set a radius around your house that you want the location to trigger. And then when you arrive back at your home, it's supposed to automatically open the garage door. And all of that works fine. But the problem is that it requires background location permission on your iPhone. It doesn't just work with the sensor. You have to have your phone with you with the app installed. And so I don't like having to have yet another app with background location permission on, and that's the way that this works. If I'm gonna pay $30 for a sensor, it better take care of the whole thing itself. It should just be that if the sensor gets close to the garage door, it opens the garage door, but that's not how it works. I think I'll let these people cross here and not run into them. Now, one thing to keep in mind as you envision how you could command your garage door with your smart home and your Apple devices is something called secure requests. So opening your garage door is something that your Apple Home considers a secure request, meaning you can't just talk to your HomePods and your HomePods not recognize your voice if you don't have personal requests on, and then it will open the garage door, because someone could potentially figure out a way to talk to your HomePods, by shouting through the window or something, and then it would open the garage door and then let them into the home, which you wouldn't want and Apple wouldn't want either. So you can talk to Siri to do this, but you're going to have to use your Apple Watch or your iPhone when it's unlocked, or other devices that are sort of in a secure state where then you can ask for the garage door to open. That's why using it with my Apple Watch on my wrist is one of my favorite ways to do that, because it's always authenticated for secure requests, like asking for a garage door to open or a door to unlock. Now, on the flip side, closing your garage door is not a problem in this case, of course, because that's keeping people out of the home. Now, one other detail, if you've not used a smart garage door opener in the past, that you want to keep in mind is a key safety requirement that all garage door controllers, to my knowledge, need to comply with. And that's if you're telling the garage door to close from a smart home command, then the controller needs to make some kind of alarm style sound and flash lights or do other things to just show you that the garage door is about to close. So that way, if someone was near the garage door in the garage, let's say, or just outside, then they would be made aware that, hey, look out, the door is about to close. And the iQ3 has a very tasteful version of this, in my opinion. It's not too loud, which is great. Of course, it's still there to meet requirements and still, I think, plenty loud enough for most people to notice. But I wouldn't consider it something that would wake up my neighbors if I live in a townhome. One other thing to think about with the sensor is that you'll need to run the wires from the sensor back to your control box. Now, then the control box might need to also then be wired up to your garage door opener if you have an older one. So something to consider. Now, Tailwind does give you plenty of slack of amount of wires in the box with this. And I don't think it would be too hard to extend those with additional wires of your own if you needed to. But just keep that in mind as you think about where you might want to install the sensor along with the control unit and making sure those are on the correct places of the door. Of course, if you have a modern motor like mine, the control to the garage door motor is wireless, so that should give you a little more flexibility in where you put the control unit. So overall, in this day and age, getting a smart garage door takes some research and effort, then additional effort to install. But I would say it's well worth the time. Getting your garage door into Apple Home gives you all kinds of advantages I mentioned at the front of the video, as well as quickly being able to show it in things like Apple CarPlay if you have that in one of your vehicles. And it's so nice as you build out your Apple Home and more home automations, like things like a good night scene, to be able to include your garage door in all of that is super helpful. So there'll be a link down in the description below if you're interested in checking out this Tailwind iQ3 for yourself. I also have a video linked somewhere here on the screen that you might be interested in. Thanks again so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.